Chapter 8, Section 1, Part 2. Please have your Google Doc open and ready to answer questions as you watch the video. The Northwest Ordinance. One of the most important questions that the Confederation Congress faced was what to do with the western lands that it now controlled. Congress passed important laws on how to divide and govern these lands. The Land Ordinance of 1785 and the Northwest Ordinance of 1787. The Land Ordinance of 1785 called for surveyors to stake out 6-mile square plots, called townships, in the western lands. These lands later became known as the Northwest Territory. The Northwest Territory included land that formed the states of Ohio, Indiana, Michigan, Illinois, and Wisconsin, as well as part of Minnesota. The Northwest Ordinance of 1787 described how the Northwest Territory was to be governed. As the territory grew in population, it gained rights to self-government. When there was 5,000 free males in an area, men who owned at least 50 acres of land could elect an assembly. When there were 60,000 people, they could apply to become a new state. The Northwest Ordinance also set conditions for settlement in the Northwest Territory and outlined the settlers' rights. Slavery was outlawed, and the rivers were to be open to navigation by all. Freedom of religion and trial by jury were guaranteed. The Northwest Ordinance was important because it set a pattern for the orderly growth of the United States. As the nation grew, it followed this pattern in territories added after the Northwest Territory. Weaknesses of the Articles of Confederation. Aside from its handling of land issues, however, the Confederation Congress had few successes. By the end of the Revolutionary War, the United States faced serious problems, and the Confederation Congress did not have enough power to solve them. Debt was a critical problem for the government. Congress had borrowed large sums of money to pay the Revolutionary War. Much of that money was owed to soldiers of its own army. Upset at not being paid, several hundred soldiers surrounded the Pennsylvania State House where Congress was meeting in June of 1783. The soldiers threatened the legislators, thrusting their bayonets through the windows. The delegates were forced to flee the city. The event was a clear sign of the Congress's weakness. Even if Congress wanted to pay the soldiers, it did not have the power to levy or raise taxes. The national government depended on the states to send money to Congress. But the states sent very little, if any, money, because it was totally up to them whether or not they wanted to send money to the national government. Congress was not alone in facing economic crisis. People throughout the nation faced hard times. In Massachusetts, the economy was so bad that people rose up in arms against the government. Shays' Rebellion. In the mid-1780s, Massachusetts faced economic problems, as did other states. People had little money, but the state continued to levy high taxes. The average family owed $200 in taxes per year, more money than most farmers made, and cash was quite hard to come by at this time because most farmers traded or participated in a form of a barter economy. Many Massachusetts farmers fell deeply in debt. Debt laws at the time were strict. Anyone who could not repay his debts would have his property auctioned off. If the auction didn't raise enough money to settle the debts, the debtor would be put in jail. In western Massachusetts, many jails were packed with debtors. And now you know where my debtor's prison comes from. Farmers asked the Massachusetts legislature to provide debt relief, but the legislature refused, and the farmers rebelled. So basically this meant that they asked for the legislature to lower the taxes, and the legislature refused, so the farmers then got quite angry and began to rebel. One of the leaders of the rebellion was a Revolutionary War veteran named Daniel Shays. He commanded a group of about 1,500 men. In January 1787, Shays and his men marched on a federal arsenal, which is a place where weapons are stored. The arsenal was defended by 900 soldiers from the state militia. The militia quickly defeated Shays' men. But even though the militia put down Shays' rebellion, as the uprising came to be known, the farmers won the sympathy of many people. America's leaders realized that an armed uprising of common farmers spelled danger for the nation. Some leaders hoped that the nation's ills could be solved by strengthening the national government. In the next section, or in the next video, we will find out how Americans held a convention to change the Articles of Confederation. This is the end of Chapter 8, Section 1. At this point, not only should you have your Google Doc completed and be able to ready to submit, but you should also be able to answer a few other questions, such as, what issues affected the Western Territories between 1775 and 1787? What were 3 successes of the Continental Congress? And what were the strengths and weaknesses of the Articles of Confederation? Finally, think about and answer, which side would you have supported during Shays' Rebellion? The farmers or the officials who called out the militia, and why? Keep in mind the farmers' problems, the farmers' march on the arsenal, and finally, the job of the government. When you're able to answer these questions and you've completed your Google Doc, please make sure to submit. And when that's all done, we'll see you in class tomorrow.